Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarius and today we're going to be taking a look at the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. Now, there's a lot of great nominations this year and I'm going to be covering all that and more. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now for our first one, it's going to be the best VA for their Japanese performance, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's already going to be Monkey D. Luffy. I think Luffy's voice is just so iconic. It's the reason why One Piece, I think, has been so long lasting in anime form. Why it continues to not only be one of the best shows currently airing, but also one of the best shows of all time. And I think it has to do with Luffy's iconic laugh, Luffy's iconic voice, and sort of the character himself. And it's due in part to the voice actress, Mayumi Tanaka. She kills it every time I see an episode with Luffy. And it's the reason why every time that Luffy isn't in an episode, because he's incapacitated from a fight, the show kind of slows down for me, because I just miss Luffy. I think Luffy is the glue that holds One Piece together and is one of the best anime protagonists I have seen in a while. So, absolutely going to go with Monkey D. Luffy here. He's just incredible. Alright, so next we have the best ending sequence, and I'm going to have to give it to Oshinoko, because Mephisto is just iconic for me. I added the song to my playlist, I listened to it regularly. It was one of my favorite songs when the show was coming out, just because it is such a departure from the opening, which is very upbeat, and this is more reflective of like the true intention of the show, which is a revenge story. Trying to find the person who murdered their mother. And I think that is the best aspect of the show, and the fact that this ending capitalizes on that, I love it to death. Now, best opening sequence, I can speak more to this one, and this one is going to be the one that hurts me the most because there's a lot of great options here. There's Idol from Oshinoko, there's Kickback from Chainsaw Man, Work from Hell's Paradise, Where Our Blue Is from Jujutsu Kaisen, Song of the Dead from Psalm 100, and Heavenly Delusion has Innocent Arrogance. Now, Innocent Arrogance, although Heavenly Delusion is one of the most interesting shows I've seen, I haven't finished it yet. It's on I put it on hold, but I want to return to it. The opening is pretty good, but unfortunately, I'm already going to have to cut it because it's nowhere near as amazing as these other five. Now, from these five, I have to make the difficult choice of narrowing it down to three. And as much as I do love Idol and I do love Kickback, I'm going to have to narrow it down to Work, Song of the Dead, and Where Our Blue Is. And Work is amazing because I love Hell's Paradise. I love how it pulls you into the show, and it just sort of hypes you up for this adventure to this island where things aren't as how they seem. And I think Work is very iconic for its opening because it is it's very mesmerizing for me when I watch this show, or when I watch this opening getting into this show. So Work is great. Where Our Blue Is, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, I love it to death. I love it to death because I read the manga, so I knew what was going to happen. But when this opening came on and it was very upbeat, it's uplifting, everyone's having a great time, it's Gojo and Geto getting along, I was like, wait, this isn't this arc, is it? Because this arc ends it's very depressing. It ends on a very sad note. And when the arc actually does play out like the manga, I just look back at this opening and laugh because they lied to the fans. They lied to our faces and tricked a lot of anime onlys that this was going to be an upbeat core and upbeat arc, but truthfully, Hidden Inventory is not a fun arc. It is even the precursor to one of the most tragic arcs also, which will be Shibuya. And oh boy, the fact that they sort of gaslit all the fans I thought was really funny. And then we have Song of the Dead, and Song of the Dead is amazing. I just love Song of the Dead because it takes such a morbid premise, like Where Our Blue Is, and it spins it on its head like a zombie apocalypse scenario, and everyone's dancing, everyone's grooving, having a great time, And it's very much the optimistic show of this season. So the opening, to illustrate that point, to illustrate that even though people are dying around you, even though there's very sad moments, very dramatic moments within the show, at its heart, it's very hopeful, despite it being, the situation being awful. So out of the three, I have to give it to Zom 100. Song of the Dead is just iconic. Every time I listen to it, I get a smile on my face. It reminds me of great times, even though it could be a very depressing scenario, even though the scenario could be hopeless. Song of the Dead brings a smile to my face, especially when you have zombies dancing with them. And the colors, oh my goodness, the illustrations going on in the opening of just bright, powerful colors that are reflective of like the blood and gore of the show and how it's almost like paint colors. I love it. It's amazing. So I'm going to have to give it to Song of the Dead here. I think they killed it with this one. And the fact that although this show did get delayed, we got that 3 final episodes. That opening just brought me back into the show. It revitalized my love and enjoyment for Bucket List of the Dead, going around having a great time during the zombie apocalypse. Okay, when it comes to best score, I haven't really been paying attention. One, because I haven't actually seen the end of Attack on Titan once again. But also, the shows I have seen, like Oshi no Ko, Bocchi the Rock, and Demon Slayer, I haven't really been paying attention. Even though I know the score is good, it is very present, nothing stuck out to me as really amazing or hooking. Chainsaw Man falls under the same route, and Suzume I haven't seen, so... with best score, it's just best for me to skip it because I don't remember much from these shows. But yeah, I would just say if you did listen to it, let me know what you guys think the best score is, and maybe I'll revisit it and just re-listen to the score because maybe it is good. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm just forgetting how great the score was for these shows.
No contest.
Best anime song. Now. This one's interesting because this isn't best opening, so we're not judging it on the visuals, we're judging it based on the song they chose and how great the song is. So it's fair game here. Suzume I haven't seen, so unfortunately I'm not going to be voting for that. But it's basically down to Bocchi the Rock, Idol, Kickback, Where Our Blue Is, and Work. And now if Song of the Dead was here, it would win. But since it's not, I'm going to vote Where Our Blue Is because, like Song of the Dead, it's very upbeat. It brings a lot of happy emotions, and especially during this time where you have a lot of depressing, morbid shows going on. And during, I think, not even winter anime, but before winter anime, during fall anime, there's a lot of depressing shows going on. So to have this sort of levity to it, especially during a time of Shibuya and a lot of other shows that we're talking about genocide and massacres and all these morbid things, I'm glad that Where Our Blue Is was at least able to bring back that levity as a song at least. And I kept listening to it on repeat in a playlist over and over again, so you know it's good when I add it to my playlist. Alright, so Must Protect at All Cost character. This one's also very interesting because a lot of this is just boils down to who you think is just the sweetest, most innocent character ever. And I'm gonna have to say I haven't seen Buddy Daddies, even though I've been recommended it, so I'm gonna already say I'm probably gonna skip that one. But everything else I've seen Witch from Mercury, I've seen Ranking of Kings, Spy Family, Bocchi, and of course Chainsaw Man. But who would be the Must Protect at All Costs character? I'm already going to eliminate Pochita because I think Pochita can defend himself, so I don't view him as I need to protect him. Now, it really boils down to, I think, just the 4 right here, Bocchi, Anya, Boji, and Suleta. And I'm actually just going to choose, I think it's going to be Boji for me. I think Ranking of Kings is just completely underrated. More people need to be talking about this show, just because the show is great in general, and the fact that it's not nominated for more awards is kind of just sad. Boji is an amazing protagonist. He is so innocent, he's so heartwarming, he's very wholesome, and despite him having so many things pitted against him, he rises to the occasion. And because of that, whenever something does happen, I kind of just want to protect him. I want to help him because he goes through a lot. He has to deal with a lot, and it's just a really sad story that Boji exists in, and I want to protect him. So now we have Best Supporting Character. Now this one is interesting because you have finally Mob Psycho 3 or Mob Psycho 103 season 3. And this is the first time it's been nominated, which is actually kind of funny. Now, out of all these 6, I can speak to it because I've seen it all. We have Reigen, Arima, Gojo, Geto, Power, and Hanji. Now, I'm already going to get rid of Power. I don't think Power is a great supporting character compared to the others, even though she's pretty good. And I'm going to already remove Gojo and Geto because I don't really view them as supporting characters. To me personally, I view them more as central characters, especially during the hidden inventory arc. So it really boils down to Arima, Hanji, and Reigen. And I mean, it's a no-brainer from there, in my opinion, because Reigen Arataka is one of the best characters I have seen in an anime, specifically when it comes to Mob Psycho Season 3. He is just the best, even though he's a con artist, which I think is a really funny statement to say. The fact that he had such an amazing moment with Mob to sort of help Mob at the end, despite, Mob destroying everything around him, really solidified why I love the character so much. Reigen continues to prove that even though you could be a really awful person in terms of what you do for an occupation, you still care about people and you still want to see the best, even though you may be taking advantage of them just a little bit. But yeah, I think Reigen is just amazing. If Reigen doesn't win, which I'm worried that he may not because he's going against a lot of popular shows, JJK, Oshinoko, Chainsaw Man, and Attack on Titan, I hope he clutches the win because that would be spectacular. But I don't think he's gonna win. I think it's gonna be a rough battle for him, unfortunately. Now, best main character. Now this is where it gets interesting because you have Denji, Eren, Bocchi, Luffy, Mob, and Thorfinn. And I'm gonna just say it now. I already have 2 in mind from that list that I'm already gonna pick out of. So I think the 2 that stand out for me, at least, is gonna be Luffy and Thorfinn. I think Luffy, for reasons I already described, is such an amazing character. I mean, I dressed up for him for Halloween. Luffy is amazing. But then you also have Thorfinn, and Thorfinn's journey in season 2 is one of the best transformations I have seen in all of anime. It goes from someone who has been a warmonger, who has been on a revenge quest to avenge his father and take the life of the person responsible for the ambush, the person who caused him the most suffering in life, that robbed him of his father but also his family. And he didn't get that. At the last possible moment in season 1, he loses that goal and he's never able to achieve it. So now he's left as a hollow, broken man who now is a slave and is working on this farm. So where does the story go from there? Where does Thorfinn go from here? And the entirety of season 2 is a character study of going from someone who has no purpose anymore, someone who is robbed of their childhood, their livelihoods, have been away from their family for decades at this point. And you basically get to see where Thorfinn goes from here. And personally, as much as I love Luffy, as much as I love his transformation into Gear 5, one of the coolest transformations of all time, just because of Vinland Saga Season 2, because of just the slow burn, farming simulator as people put it, I think Thorfinn clutches it. I think Thorfinn, above everyone else, deserves this win because I haven't seen a character who goes from a warmonger, someone who has held dual daggers, which is really cool. He dual wielding daggers, who was a menace on the battlefield, go to a pacifist, someone who wants to resolve conflicts through words. And although he may be beaten down, and even though he could take out his adversaries pretty easily, like he's skilled enough to do so, he still, although a bit rusty since it's been a couple years, he still has the ability to return to his former self. He chooses not to. He chooses to evolve, and it really has an impact on Canute, the person who also has an amazing arc. And so, for that reason, I think Thorfinn deserves that win. Best slice of life anime. Now, this one I haven't seen much. I've heard a lot of great things about these shows though. And so, I'm just going to be talking about the two that I have completely finished. It's going to be down to Bocchi the Rock and My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999. And unfortunately for Bocchi fans, I'm going to have to go with Yamada-kun because that is one of the best romance anime that I have seen. And I have a thing, if you're unfamiliar with this, I have a thing when it comes to rom-com anime. Because a lot of it is dog shit. It is a travesty that a lot of shows aren't good. But to be frank, they're not good. They're not good. They're awful. And so the fact that not only does this have great chemistry between the cast of characters we're provided, but also the fact that the romance going on in this show actually ends up being really good by the end. Plus you have a lot of slow moments, lots of moments that really stop and let you just sort of listen to the soundtrack, and you're just kind of vibing. And there's a very solemn aesthetic associated with this show that I just have fallen in love with, and I found myself immersed in the show. So My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999, you are going to be the winner for Best Slice of Life, and I don't regret that. Best Drama is going to be very interesting because you have Oshinoko and Vinland Saga Season 2. Now, I want to give it to Vinland Saga Season 2. I really do. But I'm actually going to go with Oshinoko for this one because I don't view Vinland Saga Season 2 as a drama. And I know that sounds weird, but I don't view it as a drama because it is so good. It's beyond genres for me. Because what it really does is telling a story about... It's more of a character study than rather a focus on a specific genre. And I feel like Oshinoko is very much that perfect, I'm going to be very drama focused. And the things that the characters have to deal with, especially with the topics of self-harm during one specific episode, I think hits the nail on the head for me on why this is such a great show. I think Aqua is just such an amazing character, and the fact that he gets the most amount of screen time, and all the characters sort of that sort of interact with him and have these conversations with him solidify why I think this show is the best drama for this year. Best Fantasy. Now this one is going to be extremely tough because fantasy, I don't know what it is with isekais or fantasies recently, but they've just been spectacular. Now we have Demon Slayer here, we have Hell's Paradise, Mushoku Tensei, Mashle, Ranking of Kings, and the Ancient Magus Bride Season 2. Now, I haven't seen Ancient Magus Bride, unfortunately. I've heard really great things about it, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to remove that from my choices here. But everything else I've seen. And personally, I'm going to have to eliminate Demon Slayer off the back because I feel like if this was the Entertainment District arc, it would be higher up in my list. It would be one of the top nominations in my opinion, and be much harder to choose. But since this is dealing with the Swordsmith Village arc, I'm gonna have to already eliminate it. I just don't think it's as good as its previous arc, and compared to the shows here, it's definitely not competing. So it really boils down to Mashle, Hell's Paradise, Jobless Reincarnation, and Ranking of Kings. And out of those four shows, I'm going to have to give it to Jobless Reincarnation, Mushoku Tensei. Mushoku Tensei is a breed above everything else. It's the reason why a lot of people consider it the godfather of a lot of isekai. The reason why I think so many, I guess, mangakas have taken inspiration from this story is because it's so good with its world building, its characters, its magic system, and the fact that you can immerse yourself within this world. And although they deal with a lot of complex topics and a lot of complex physics and how magic works and how sort of, the politics of these nations work, you're still able to follow along pretty well. And it's very difficult to do. As someone who's currently writing their own fantasy story, it is so difficult to map all these things out, and the fact that Jobless Reincarnation does it to almost perfection, I think, is why it deserves Best Fantasy. Best Action's a very interesting category to talk about because this one is specifically on the fighting. It's not on the animation alone. It is not on the choreography alone. It is everything involving explosions, fighting, like hand-to-hand fighting, and everything down to what you can see on the screen. So I'm going to already eliminate Attack on Titan because I really haven't seen the last episodes. I haven't seen Bleach, so I have to take that one off the list too. And Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, One Piece, and Jujutsu Kaisen they all have great action. So if you pick one of these four, I won't blame you because they're very good. But what I will say is the two that I'm already gonna say are the best of the best are Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 and One Piece. You have Gear 5 for One Piece and you have Shibuya for JJK. That's already one of the toughest decisions I have to make because I love Gear 5. Gear 5 blew my mind when it was first introduced with its transformation, but also you're fighting against Kaido, one of the strongest One Piece characters of all time. And you also have the fights with Zoro and King and Sanji and Queen associated with that whole mess. But with Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, you have Mappa animators, and you have all the great work with Sukuna, and all the great fights associated with Toji and Yuji, and it's just a masterclass in how you do choreography. Because Jujutsu Kaisen, if you don't know the name, is to continually get stronger. That's what it means. And so when it boils down to it, as much as I want to give it to One Piece, as much as I do understand that One Piece has its pitfalls. One Piece had a lot of slow moments during Wano, and it had a lot of filler moments. Meanwhile, when you were watching JJK, throughout, it just nailed it. It just blew you away with the action. It was non-stop fighting. Every single one of the fights that broke out was amazing. And I think it really defined and pushed the limits of what great choreography in anime means and also what great action means. So just by a slim margin, because of consistency, I'm going to have to give it to JJK. And it hurts because I'm a One Piece fan, but the Mappa animators killed it, and I think they deserve every single vote here. You are my special. Best comedy is a really tough category to talk about too, because you have Bocchi, you have Mashal, Spy Family, and Zom 100, but you also have Urusei Yatsura, which is a classic anime that has been brought back and redone in spectacular animated form, with updated, of course, visuals that are more reflective of more contemporary anime. Now, Buddy Daddies, again, I haven't seen, so I'm gonna remove that from the list. And out of these, I'm gonna have to go with, as much as it pains me to choose one over the other, I'm gonna have to go with I can't say it because it's down. Well, I will say it's down to Spy Family and Zom 100. And out of the two, I have to give it to Zom 100 because there were so many great moments in this. There's so many funny moments. And again, it boils down to what I think is a great takeaway from earlier seasons of anime, which is every time you see it, you get a smile on your face. And despite it being a very morbid premise, there's a lot of fun to have with this show. And so I'm going to give it to Zom 100. Spy Family came really close, but unfortunately, I think it was just shy of taking home the crown. What I will say is Spy Family did way better, though, was its release schedule. So hopefully Zom 100 pulls that together if they do make future seasons. Best romance, I'm going to already give it. I haven't seen the others, so it's just going to be My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999. My thoughts before, it's a great rom-com. It actually ends very well. The aesthetic, the music, everything associated with the show is amazing. And although I thought this was going to be something generic, it actually turned out to be something very, very wholesome, very lighthearted, and I had a great time with it. So that's a no-brainer for me. Best art direction. Ooh, this one's going to be very interesting. We have Oshi no Ko here, we have Chainsaw Man, we have Demon Slayer, Hell's Paradise, Zom 100, and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. If we're talking about art direction, I have to already eliminate Jujutsu Kaisen because for me at least, it doesn't scream art direction. Like, it does deserve best action, but when we talk about art direction, I don't think it's there. Same with Chainsaw Man. I don't think Chainsaw is there in terms of best art direction, even though it excels in a lot of other areas. And Demon Slayer, that's also going to have to go. So it really boils down to Oshi no Ko, Hell's Paradise, and Zom 100. And that is probably one of the toughest things I have to talk about because all three of these shows deserve it. Oshi no Ko has an amazing art direction. So does Zom 100, and Hell's Paradise does too. But I have to pick one. And out of these three, I'm going to have to settle with Zom 100 because the choice to make the zombie apocalypse such a vibrant and bright setting really sticks out to me as one of the most unique looking anime I've seen, or visually, I should say. And Hell's Paradise does have amazing moments. It's very beautiful with its animation. I have to give it to Zom 100 because it is probably one of the most unique looking shows I've seen. And the way they do a lot of just bloody massacres and bloody messes within the show and adding vibrant colors to it, as well as the character designs and just the overall vibe of the show. Really stands the test of time for me. And if I had to choose a second place, I'd give it to Hell's Paradise because Hell's Paradise is also very good. But for me at least, there comes a moment where I have to choose what sticks out in my head the most, and the first thing that comes to mind is Zom 100. So. Alright, so now we have Best Cinematography, and this one's an interesting category. Because when you think cinematography, you don't think part of the animated medium, you think live action medium. But it's here, and I guess it does apply to animation as well. And out of the 6 shows, I'm already going to say it deserves to be with Chainsaw Man. This is probably the only time I'm going to vote for Chainsaw Man during this award show. Even though Chainsaw Man is a very good show. That just goes to show the caliber of shows we're working with. But in terms of actually feeling like an immersive show, like there's someone with a camera pointed at every character, in terms of different visual motifs going on, I think Chainsaw Man takes the cake. It's probably one of the prettiest looking shows when it comes to the immersion factor. And just watch any scene of Chainsaw Man and you know what I'm talking about. I think if Chainsaw Man does not win Best Cinematography, I would be very upset, unless it goes to Heavenly Delusion. I think Heavenly Delusion should be a close second. I'd be fine if you voted that over, but everything else, I think Chainsaw Man deserves it. Now, Best Director. Best Director, I would have to go with... Ooh, this is interesting. We have Chainsaw Man, Heavenly Delusion, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, Bocchi the Rock, and Oshinoko. Best Direction. Oh, this is gonna be a tough one. From what I have seen, I'm going to have to give it to Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. Because, and there's a good reason for this, okay? There's tragedy in anime. That is plain and clear. Lots of stories involve tragedy. But when it comes to Jujutsu Kaisen, the hidden inventory arc, there hasn't been such a great anime to capture what it means to lose a friend. And what separates Gojo and Geto and their friendship is what basically boils down to in the hidden inventory arc. And seeing them being separated after being such close friends is very tragic. And it deserves a lot of hard work behind the scenes to accomplish. So for that reason, I'm going to have to vote JJK here. Also the fact that you have Toji and showing Toji as an absolute menace in this arc, especially after Gojo is seemingly propped up to be one of the strongest sorcerers of all time, and him absolutely getting the floor wiped with sort of what Toji brings to the table, I think really boils down to how great this arc is. And I think, yeah, it just boils down to, I think, Gojo and Geto's separation as friends, and it going from friends to enemies, I think, hasn't been captured as great in anime as it has done here. And I think it has to do in part to the director. So, great job. Shoto Goshozono. I think I said your name right, but you did great. I think the direction here has been spectacular. Best character design is also very interesting. It's an interesting category, and I think for me, I'm going to have to go with Oshinoko here, because you're talking about an unknown show here, something that hasn't really been hyped up the same way that Chainsaw Man has from the manga, or something like Demon Slayer and JJK, who have basically continued. These are continuing series here. And Trigun Stampede, I would vote for that, but I haven't seen it, so I can't speak too much on that. So my vote is going to go with Oshinoko. I think in terms of it being introduced for the first time ever, and seeing these characters, and really putting itself down as a staple, as one of the best series that have been introduced this season, or this year, it takes the cake. You have such great characters like Aqua and Ruby that really stand out visually, as well as with the star of the show, of course, Ai. Now, Ai's character design is basically the most talked about thing ever. There's a reason why a lot of people regard this as one of the best looking shows, and why there's so many conversations about I think what makes this show great, and I think it's the character designs. You can't escape it. It's good. Best animation. I'm already gonna say it right now. It's down to Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 and Mob Psycho 103. And between these two, I have to give it to... Ooh, this is tough. I'm gonna have to give it to Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 because of what the animators were able to pull off. The Shibuya incident is one of the most infamous arcs in manga history, basically, because of how drastically it changes everything within its story, within Jujutsu Kaisen, because nothing remains the same after this arc. And there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done to make sure that this is done the best way possible. And Mob Psycho 100, you barely hit the mark here. I love Mob Psycho 100. It deserves all the love. Please check out Mob Psycho 100. But in terms of best animation, going against Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, you have to give it to them. They did an amazing job. They went above and beyond with the animation and really brought back a love to a show that a lot of people, after the events of season 1 and the movie, thought that JJK had fallen off. But it brought back the hype, and rightfully so. The animation killed it. Best original anime. I haven't seen everything else, but I'm going to give it to Witch from Mercury, because this is my reintroduction into Gundams. And although I am familiar with shows like the original Gundam and Gundam Wing, this made me watch it just based on the premise alone. My friend recommended it to me, and this is the first Gundam, I think, that actually ends on a good note. It's the first time it's not a depressing ending, despite it having a lot of depressing moments within the show. So I'm going to give it to Witch from Mercury just because I love the characters, I love just Gundams, I love fighting, and I love the premise and the world and the setting here. It's very unique, very interesting, and I could not stop watching. Every episode was increasingly more interesting than the last, and some episodes did break me, especially the Happy Birthday episode, if you know what I'm talking about. Best film. I've only seen 2 out of all these picks, and that's Kaguya, Love is War, and Black Clover, Sword of the Wizard King. And I gotta say, both are really good, great points. Not great points, great picks. But when it comes to these 2, I have to give it to Black Clover, Sword of the Wizard King, because as much as I do love Kaguya-sama, it's not really, I think, what I would describe as a movie per se. It is more just a continuation of season 3, and season 3 killed it. Season 3 was amazing, the way they ended it. But the movie for me, I don't know, there's just something about the movie that didn't scream like, this is a movie, this is just a continuation of the show. Meanwhile, Sword of the Wizard King feels like a movie. And there's a lot of great moments in here, so I'm going to give it to Black Clover. I'm a big Black Clover fan, and you can't go wrong with Asta. I think Asta is such an interesting character, and to follow up the events within their own, I guess, side story here, with Asta, of course, getting new power-ups, with all the returning characters that you love from Black Clover, I can't go wrong here. I love Black Clover. This deserves a win. Best new series. Okay, this one is where things get interesting, because a lot of great new series that have come out have been extremely well regarded as amazing, and rightfully so. Oshinoko, Zom 100, Chainsaw Man, and Hell's Paradise all belong to be on number 1. But when it comes to new series, I think stick out, for me at least, the most, and have, I guess, the biggest impact on anime going forward, I have to choose one. And best new series, for me at least, it boils down to Zom 100 and Oshinoko. And when I think about what I want going forward for season 2, as basically it leaves off on a cliffhanger, I'm gonna have to give it to Oshinoko. Oshinoko leaves off on a cliffhanger where I need to see more. I need to see what happens. I need to see Aqua's quest fulfilled. I need to see him find the person responsible for murdering their mother. And with Zom 100, it ties the knot perfectly. But unfortunately, because it ties the knot off perfectly on sort of this fun epilogue, and we don't know if it gets season 2 yet, I'm gonna give it to Oshinoko because I need it. I need season 2 now. Alright, we're down to our last 2 categories, and it's down to best continuing series. And this one is the toughest category that we have covered so far. We're talking about Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Spy Family, and Vinland Saga. The best of the best this year have been some of the best anime we have ever gotten. And when we're talking about best continuing series, I have to give it to One Piece. because it's One Piece. I'm a One Piece fan, and we got Gear 5, we got the Egghead arc already. We've gotten the conclusion of Wano, which spanned, I think, 4 years, 5 years, some insane amount of time. And we finally got the end to that. And although it did have some bumps in the road, Wano, on its scale of how much preparation had to go into it, it was divided into 3 acts, how it was a continuation of the one big arc of Wano, but it was started all the way back, I think, a little bit after the time skip is when we start to get in motion all the pieces. Wano was big. It had a lot of preparation going into it, and the fact that we saw the conclusion of it with Gear 5, as well as the events to follow with Egghead and everything that happens with the Riviera, the Riviera. I think it deserves best continuing series. There's no competition here. One Piece is the GOAT, and there's a reason for it. Last but not least is going to be Anime of the Year. We have Oshinoko, Bocchi the Rock, Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, and Vinland Saga Season 2. Bocchi the Rock, although I haven't voted for it with any of these categories, and I know a lot of people like Bocchi the Rock, I'm going to have to say, this is the first one off my list. I don't like Bocchi the Rock. I think it is overrated. I think K-On! Did it much, much better, and I don't understand the hype around this particular show. Demon Slayer isn't as good as its predecessor in the Entertainment District arc, so it's already off. Even though I thought it was a good show, I just don't think it deserves to be even considered for Anime of the Year. So it really boils down to 4 of these shows, and it's Oshinoko, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Vinland Saga. And out of these 4, I have to say, Vinland Saga takes the cake. If I already didn't spoil it in the thumbnail, Vinland Saga is so good. There's so many great things to come out of this show, and I think the biggest thing is it really separated who was a real fan of Vinland Saga, who was really there for the show. Not after the events of Season 1 have I seen such a departure from so many people saying, this show isn't for me, and ditching it because they called it a farming simulator. Well, they just missed the gold, because Season 2 is arguably better than Season 1. It is a complete character study of Thorfinn. It talks about his journey from the events of Season 1 and continuing on into Season 2. And really highlights the fact why I think slow burn anime, although they can be overlooked, deserve another chance to be consumed from a different lens. Like, it's okay to love your JJKs, and it's okay to love your Chainsaw Mans and Oshinokois. But with Vinland Saga, the slow-paced show, watching these characters deal with an unfortunate situation, which is them becoming slaves on this farmland, to see events unfold that are out of control. Like, it starts with one little spark that starts a wildfire near the end, and it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating, and by the end you're just left breathless, because Vinland Saga concludes with one of the biggest twists I've seen in a show, which is Thorfinn's infamous "I have no enemies." And that final confrontation between him and Canute, seeing those 2 paths cross once again after they go down 2 completely different paths, is just mesmerizing to see. And the fact that Thorfinn had such a profound impact on Canute just solidifies the fact why I love this show so much. Vinland Saga Season 2 deserves to be number 1. Is it gonna win? Absolutely not. Vinland Saga Season 2 stands no chance against any of these other shows, because, let's be frank here, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is gonna take the cake. It's gonna win because of popularity. Even though it deserves to go to Vinland Saga Season 2. And I am heartbroken by that. I am hurt by that news. But it's the unfortunate truth. And true anime fans know that deep down, the prize deserves to go to Vinland Saga. And those are going to be my picks for the anime this year of anime. And there were a lot of great picks, as I have said. A lot of choices were difficult to make, but I had to make those choices. I had to choose. Out of a lot of great shows, one was better than the other. And it's all based on preference here. If you have different picks than mine, it's completely okay. But I want to hear your thoughts. What did you guys think that anime of the year? Who do you think anime of the year deserves to belong to? Do you agree that Vinland Saga deserves to win? Do you think JJK rightfully deserves it? Or maybe do you think Bocchi deserves it? I know you have a lot of Bocchi fans out there. I want to hear all your thoughts and more down in the comments below. Yeah, I think that's it.